Conavi is a developer, manufacturer, and marketer of medical imaging systems to guide common, minimally invasive cardiovascular procedures. CEO Tom Looby is here to review some recent news, including a funding package of up to $2.5 million from the province of Ontario to help with the launch of Conavi's next generation Novasight hybrid imaging system. I'm Martin Gagel with Market Radius Research. Please remember, this is neither recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Tom, welcome back. Great to see you again.
It's great to be here, Martin. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Yeah, you've had a bit of news recently, a bit of help from the provincial government. Why don't you tell us what's going on there and how that helps you out?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had really great support from the Canadian government and the province of Ontario. And sometime earlier this fall, I received a phone call from Minister Victor Fidelity. He said, "Hey, good news. You've got $2.5 million to support your operations here in Toronto." So we are very pleased. We thank them from the bottom of our hearts to help support our mission. And we'll be able to pull money out of that grant over the next, let's say, 6 to 9 months.
And that's covering a portion of your launch expenses, or what sort of expenses does that cover for Conavi?
Yeah, so we have a few non-dilutive funding opportunities that we're pursuing. This is the first one to have materialized here since we made that commitment. And yes, it will help to support our run towards the commercialization of our next generation imaging platform, which you may have also seen news about, which we submitted to the FDA in September of this year. So that application is underway. We will certainly, hit the ground running with this. This money will support us as we go to commercialization.
Yeah, it was almost exactly 2 months ago that you press released your FDA submission. Is there any, like, there's been a government shutdown? They're doing their thing? Is there any sort of update or information you can provide investors on how that process is going or what you know about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was so proud of my team who worked very hard to pull in the timeline to submit to the FDA because it turned out that it was lucky. Getting our submission into September meant that the FDA continued to review our application while during the shutdown. And we were told that by, a couple dozen industry professionals that had heard that that was the case. And just to recall, we are using our own first generation product as the predicate for this 510(k) application. We feel like that gives us a degree of confidence going into the formal review of our application. So yeah, and we expect to hear back from them imminently with the
And
first round of
just
questions.
on the predicate device, you essentially have to show you're as good or better than it. Is that, I'm sure it's a little more
Substantially
complicated than that, but
substantially equivalent. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, and then you're going against your prior thing. So I don't know, from a layman from the outside, that seems like it should be a pretty doable hurdle.
Yeah, and to add to the fact that we are using our own product as a predicate, and they've seen the underlying technologies a few different times with standalone ultrasound and standalone optical products, so they're pretty well up to speed on what these technologies can do. But just to add to our confidence, we did go through a pre-submission process with the FDA earlier this summer, received their initial round of questions back in August, and that helped to inform what we finally submitted to them in September. So I think as a company, we're trying to do everything we can to, de-risk a regulatory process that looks like it's pretty straightforward right now. And now with the U.S. government back at work, that just removes any other questions about, whether they can fully focus on it or not.
And I forget, do they have a strict timeline they have to respond by a certain date? There's a legislated, you can't sit on a file for too long.
Yeah, in a very macro sense, they've got a 90-day total review. They typically take the first 60 to do the very first batch of questions. Probably the most comprehensive set of questions are in that first 60-day plus or minus review. And then we will have up to 180 days to react to any questions that they may have. And then that will trigger their next, whatever they have left on the clock, typically around 30 days. you add all that together, and what it says is with the submission in September, we are safely within the first half of 2026, which is what we've been talking about for a while.
And so at this point, the best case scenario, and I don't know if this ever happens, they could just say thumbs up right now by mid-December, or sort of a not as good scenario. It's like, hey, we have a few more questions. Can
Yeah.
you reply to this? And then you've got your 180 days to get back to them, and then they've got 30 days to get back to that.
Yeah, it's certainly conceivable that they can give us a clearance out of the gate. I don't think it's likely. It's not really the way that they typically operate, in my experience.
Okay.
But we have already, we're already predicting some of their questions and already working on it in advance. So we'll wait and see.
All right. All right. You also announced some news, and I think this all aligns with your approaching commercial launch. You've hired a new CFO, and Stefano, your former CFO, is being a new role there. Can you talk about how are you positioning yourselves internally for the expected approval and then the product launch?
Yeah, absolutely. Stefano has helped build the company to where it is today, and certainly we thank him, and he's on board with us right now as part of this transition. But to strengthen ourselves moving forward, we hired Mark Quick. He's a U.S. Guy. He's joining our team. But even just recently, we've also recruited a operations executive out of Abiomed. So we are, this company up here really making some noise and attracting key talent at the senior leader. But yes, most recently we just appointed Mark Quick as CFO. He joined us at the beginning of November.
All right. And how much more operational buildup and team buildup do you need to do? Are you waiting to, let's say, hire salespeople in that until you get the final approval, or what do you build up right now? How is that progression happening?
Yeah, we have some buildup to do for, but I would say minimal buildup to do for our limited market release in the States. So that will be taking place in the first part of 2026. But we know where the hospitals are where we're going to first deploy the technology. Some of them were users of our first generation, and some of them wanted to be users of our first generation. So the selling effort is not too extensive for the LMR, the limited market release. It's more on clinical support resources and things like that to help doctors and their tech support, work through the initial cases with the product. If we expand beyond that, then we'll have to maybe scale up a little bit more in the commercial side.
Excellent. Anything else to review
One thing I
since I
just
got you
wanted to
here?
tell you, and this is sort of the macro perspective from the market. Our company and many in our space just returned from the TCT conference, or the Transcatheter Therapeutics Conference in San Francisco, just 2 weeks ago. And many of my colleagues and I were talking, and we thought that where we have come from 4 years ago to today is 180 degrees. 4 years ago, we were wondering, would imaging really start to penetrate the marketplace more than what it had? Would guidelines improve? Would reimbursement improve? In 4 years, all of that has improved so that we're in a Class 1A guideline. We've got really good reimbursement in the States and in other places around the globe. And the debate at the podium is no longer when should you use imaging? The question is, when should you not use imaging? And I was really heartened to see that they didn't really have good answers for that. People need to use imaging to guide their procedures to get the best result.
All right. And we know which machine they should use.
Correct.
All right. Tom, thank you very much. That was a great update.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it.